SIG 1 December 2020. This is video number 3. Get some tea. This is going to be a bit lengthy. Pardon me. I believe this is from David Horowitz. By now, it should be obvious, even to conservatives, that we are in a war. In a previous video, I already covered the attack by the black Hebrew nationalists on this white couple. I don't know who this couple is. He doesn't know who they are. But is he going to get charged with a hate crime? I doubt it, personally. They'll cover for him. I wonder if he'll just need counseling. It is a conflict that began nearly 50 years ago when the street revolutionaries of the 60s joined the Democrat Party. Their immediate goal was to help the communist enemy win the war in Vietnam. I've mentioned this before. But they stayed to expand their influence in the Democrat Party and create a radical force that confronts us today. The war that today's Democrats are engaged in reflects the values and methods of those radicals. It is a war against us, against individual freedom, against America's constitutional order, and against the capitalist engine of our prosperity. Democrat radicals know what they want and where they're going. As a result, they are tactically and organizationally years ahead of patriotic Americans who are only just beginning to realize that we are in a war. Been saying it at least since '63. The Democrats' plan to steal the 2020 election was hashed many years ago when Democrats launched their first attacks on voter IDs, and then every effort to secure the integrity of the electoral system. It doesn't help when we have justices that don't even support voter IDs as a way to secure elections. One person, one vote, all that. Those attacks metastasized into an all-out assault on Election Day itself, with early and late voting grace periods, and a flood of 92 million mail-in ballots, hundreds of thousands of which were delivered in the middle of the night to be counted behind the backs of Republican observers after Election Day had passed. The result of these efforts is that Election Day no longer really exists as a day when the votes are cast and counted. This is a fact that offers generous opportunities for the election saboteurs to do their work. These saboteurs' opportunities were greatly enhanced this year with the installation in battleground states of voting machines specifically designed to calculate how many votes were required to steal an election, and then to switch ballots already cast and deliver them to the chosen party. You know, the ones that delivered like in Detroit after 3:30 in the morning. I think it was Detroit. Mail-in ballots were indispensable to the realization of this plan. I will not dwell at length on the years it took the Republican Party and American patriots to recognize what the Democrat Party had become or the threat it posed to our country and its enemy within. I knew that some time ago. It doesn't take a genius, just takes somebody who's paying attention. Suffice it to say the Republicans can still be heard referring to Democrats as liberals. No. When it's obvious even to them that there's nothing liberal about their principles or methods. They are vindictive bigots who are actively destroying the First Amendment in our universities, on the internet, and in our once but no longer free press. Suffice it to note that while Democrats accuse Republicans, including the president, of being racists and traitors in response to the response of Democrat leaders is this: oh, the Democrats are just playing politics. That's because Republicans are useless. They are feckless. They are weak. They need to be replaced as a party. All of them. This is not playing, people. It is war. They are trying to kill us politically, and with their freaking allies, BLM, Antifa, CARE, Black Hebrew, was it? Black Israelite Hebrews, whatever the hell they're called. NFAC, Nation of Islam. Oh, I'm sure there's more. We need to respond accordingly to fight fire with fire. Today's Democrat Party is a party of character assassins and racists, not just character assassins when you go out into a ball field and just start shooting at political opponents. That's not character assassination. That's actual trying to be assassin. That's an actual assassin. Republicans know this but are reluctant to say it. Again, weak and feckless. This is how a pathological liar and corrupt political whore like Joe Biden can accuse the choice of 73 million Americans of being a white supremacist and also murdering 220,000 coronavirus patients. Speaking of which, let's not forget Kamala Harris, shall we? Biden is just a figurehead. If he gets in, he's going to be pushed to the side, and it's going to be Harris. Don't even play that game. Not with me. That's why Biden and his gunslingers can do so with no consequences, without so much as a wrist slap from moderates and independents who know better. The Democrats' ability to intimidate well-meaning Americans is that great. Is this too blanket a condemnation? Where then is the Democrat who was outraged by the 4-year Russia collusion hoax and the failed coup and impeachment attempts, all of which accuse the president without a shred of evidence as treason? I think every one of those people, well, no. They have no shame and they have no guilt because a lot of them are treasonous. And I'll say it to their face. Where was a Democrat who descended from the public lynching of an exemplary public servant, Justice Brett Kavanaugh, over an incident that never happened 37 years ago, at a time when he was a high school kid? Where's the Democrat who has condemned the violent street criminals of Antifa and Black Lives Matter, who got away with conducting the most destructive civil insurrection in American history outside of the declared Civil War, orchestrating mayhem and disrespect for the law that led to the murders of scores of people who happen to have been mainly black? What follows is a basic vocabulary for understanding the political war that has engulfed us. When it is used by enough Americans who love their country, it will cancel the surreal universe that Democrat lies have imposed on us, and the war will be on its way to being won. We'll see. Democrats are not Democrats, they are totalitarians. They have declared war on the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Electoral College, the Senate, the Supreme Court, the election system, and the idea of civil order. They have called for the Republican president of the United States to be deplatformed and jailed. Some people have actually called for him and the vice president to be executed. I don't forget. Their obvious goal is a one-party state that criminalizes dissent. To them, support for such basic necessities as borders and law enforcement are racist. If you oppose their efforts to legalize infanticide, they will condemn you as enemies of women. If you make videos of their confessions to selling body parts of murdered infants, they will, like Kamala Harris, throw you in jail. Progressives aren't progressive. They are reactionaries. They're regressives, in my opinion. That's not them, that's me. They're regressives. They are out to abolish liberal value systems and create a status hierarchy where race, gender, and sexual orientation define and confine you to an unalterable place in their new social order. If you are white or male or heterosexual or religious, the wrong religious, just as Kavanaugh was all for, then you're guilty before the fact. There are some religions you simply can't touch. If you're a member of a designated but increasingly imaginary quote-unquote victim group, you are an innocent. You are innocent even when the facts show you're guilty, like the reprehensible female who lied to Congress in a calculated attempt to destroy Kavanaugh's life and career. If you're a member of a victim group, you have an unlimited license to persecute others. Thus, the LGBTQ blah blah freaking blah lobby is currently behind the nationwide crusade to strip Christians of their First Amendment rights and to criminalize their religion. Unless you're of the preferred religion, of course. They use their victim status to leverage their hate of people who don't embrace their agendas and deploy it to crush them. And only Republicans seem to care. Do they? Do they? You never really hear from them much. They're on the Hill, they're next to useless. Identity politics is a pure form of racism, yet Trump is the only Republican I'm aware of who has had the political spine to call a Democrat a racist. Identity wokeism is totalitarian politics because it encompasses every aspect of life down to the pronouns one is ordered to use. The progressive police state will leave no space free. Racists and aspiring totalitarians are what Democrats have become. The only moral principle they are guided by is the old Bolshevik saw, quote, the end justifies the means, end quote. They will say anything however false and condone anything however criminal, which advances their goal of maximum power. Since race is the principal weapon wielded by Democrats, this is most evident in their claim that there is systemic racism in America which needs to be rooted out, even if it means destroying the very foundations of law and order. When two Republican canvassers refused to certify the election result in Detroit, a city once the richest in America, but now mainly black and poor thanks to 59 years of misrule by Democrats, they were accused of systemic racism. This charge and the accompanying threats by the Democrat mob were so intimidating that the two withdrew their objections. But if there was in fact election fraud in Detroit, to object to it is not by any stretch of the imagination systemic racism. To believe otherwise is to believe that black people, due to their skin color, are incapable of committing election fraud. How racist is that? Systemic racism is an assertion made reflexively by Democrats that is never accompanied by evidence, for good reason. Systemic racism has been outlawed in America since the Civil Rights Act of 1964. If there were actual instances of systemic racism in 2020, there would be lawsuits and plenty of them. Even making a racist assumption, which the identity politics crowd does make, that all white people and are all white supremacists by dint of their skin color. There are tens of thousands of black lawyers, prosecutors, district attorneys, attorney generals, and elected officials who would be filing lawsuits over a practice that is illegal. You never hear of massive lawsuits over systemic racism because systemic racism is a myth. The myth lives because it is an indispensable weapon wielded by Democrats to advance their anti-democratic agendas and quests for power. But the only reason Democrats are able to do this so successfully, even going so far as to justify the arson, looting, and general destruction in more than 600 American cities over the summer, is because Republicans and conservatives generally are too cowardly to confront them. This war will continue until patriotic Americans summon the courage to call the Democrats the racists, liars, and character assassinations and aspiring totalitarians that they actually are. And to do so in so many words. Blowback works. It ends that way. Blowback works. Well, there are other solutions. But, 623 out.